300 views on our YouTube channel, which encourages us to hold further events on the subject. And this is great news. Congratulations to you all. I would take the support of New Zealand Education, represented here by Ana Azevedo and Bruna De Natali, for enabling the translation of these events simultaneously from English to Portuguese and to the interpretation in Libras, the Brazilian Sign Language. We will wait presentations and leave questions to the end. So if you have a question for one of the speakers, please feel free to write your question in the YouTube chat and we will forward it to the speakers. I wish you all a great meet. So let's start. Our first panel will address the topic on urban water management.
And some of my background, I did my postdoctorate at University of Sydney, so I was around for a couple of years, just 1 year, but and after that, I'm a PhD in coastal and oceanographic engineering in Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, okay? So, some results of my research lines, one of them, I'm kind of like work in different areas somehow, but I try to not be concentrated in just one area, but I started this kind of research in Sydney. I use green roofs for stormwater attenuation and heat stress. So I have published some papers about this subject. Me and Sarah Wilson from UTS University in Sydney, we've been working together so far. And so this is one of part of my research lines. And the second is I did all my master and my doctorate. I've been working with submarine CO2 waterfalls. So it's been a kind of controversial subject because like the media try to blame this as a problem, but sometimes we don't have like other solutions. So we are talking about domestic sewage. So that is related to some domestic sewage. They have like a kind of a natural degradation. I know that there are some impacts in the environment, but I'm gonna show you some modern stuff that have been performed all this time. And that's why I'm going to focus in this theme that it's related to the subject of our webinar, of course. And I'm going to talk about submarine outfalls. So I think this is a universal problem. So everybody wants to be by the ocean. So everybody wants to live by the ocean. And then we have a concentration of population. And the sewage is the problem, you know. It's been in Rio de Janeiro, it's our like water quality depends on the tide. I'm gonna try to explain why, but it's a common issue. All those summers that people are concerned about the water quality, if there are suitable bathing conditions or not. So, and what I've been realizing all this time, it's ocean outfalls. It's been, I know that you have impacts, you have environmental impacts, but whenever you concentrate people, we will have environmental impact. You cannot have like a perfect world, you know? So I'm going to explain here our case here in Rio de Janeiro and another case in Brazil. And also I can cite other, I would say, a really well done case study before the Olympic Games that was held in Sydney, that the water quality from Sydney Bay, it was improved with 3 major ocean outfalls: Malabar, North Head, and Bondi. So in my focus of my research is related to public health. So I have to try to avoid waterborne diseases. So in this point of view, ocean outfalls is a solution. I'm going to try to explain why and show some evidence about what I'm talking. So here I have like those three ocean outfalls that I told you, like North Head, Bondi, and Malabar. I leave it here. And I have to tell I miss Australia sometimes. And here we have three major outfalls in the Rio, Niterói, Ipanema, and Barra da Tijuca. We have two ocean outfalls in Salvador, just as single examples in Brazil, but we have much more. So what happens? Like many people don't know what happens. So you have a kind of engineering process that tries to increase the dilution of those like effluents in the ocean. So the longer the diffuser, the better is the dilution. So that's what engineering, diffuser engineers is concerned. So, but basically, the mixing of those sewage in the ocean, they have two different mixing zones. So we have the active that it happens in the surroundings of the diffuser. So it's a kind of balance between buoyance of the effluent and I would say momentum of the effluent. So after when those kind of densities, because we are releasing, I would say, not sweet water, but as we say here, we are releasing in seawater fresh water, I'm sorry, so that it tends to float, and there's a mixing between fresh water and seawater. So this mixing, when it stabilizes, so it stops in the water column, and then it's passively transported by ocean currents. So, but we are concerned in biodegradation, and that's what I'm going to focus also here. So all this work that I have been performed, it's like a multidiscipline work. So I had to study something about microbiology, oceanography, and many things, because if I'm really concerned about my contaminant, and this is not conservative, I have to understand how this contaminant decays in the environment. So it was a kind of like another big trial, you know. I had to understand how it decays in the water. So about the mixing, so it can happen. It's like in the atmosphere. So we are releasing something that it's lighter. So we have like something lighter in something that it's more dense or denser. I'm sorry. So depending on the profile of the density of the water column, this mixing will reach the free surface or will not reach the free surface. So what happens? So if it doesn't reach the free surface, so the solar radiation will not degrade those microorganisms that are there. So we are going to have like a lower decay of those bacteria. I'm going to explain what kind we try to study. And then here we have, in my point of view, a better solution when it tends to go to the surface, and then we have a much higher degradation because of the sunlight. Okay. So here I just try to explain simply how it works. So imagine here I have fresh water with this density mixing with a water column that the density increases with depth. So imagine, suppose, like hypothetically speaking, if we have like this mixing with this, we would have a mixing with this density. it's still lighter than this, so it tends to float. And then this mix with this, and it's lighter, so it tends to float, and so on, until it's stabilized in that depth, for example. So what happened in this situation? So there will be no enough solar radiation to degrade this kind of microorganisms that can be like coliforms, that can be viruses and other kind of microbiota. So all the degradation of this effluent lies on the intensity of solar radiation. So in the modeling, it has to be considered, okay? So we have like basically, I try to synthesize all my speech here, but we have basically three processes. We have the advection, the pollutant advection. We have the turbulent diffusion, and also we have I would say it's the main process. Doesn't matter if you have the best hydrodynamic model. Doesn't matter if you have the best turbulent diffusion model. If you don't know the bacterial decay kinetics, it's like as you say in Brazil, it's like a shot in the dark. You don't know. It's like it's a sketch. It's not something real. So that's why I spend lots of my time here trying to understand that. So I read basically thousands of papers, and I would say that the best one was the old one. So I published a paper comparing lots of them, and at the end I stayed with 4. And the oldest one was the best for me. So, but basically, the bacterial decay kinetics, it lies on as a function of temperature, salinity, and solar radiation. Okay? And then we are focused here. So we are not focused in one kind of specific virus or pathogen. You are focused in like bacterial decay models that we are really concerned about. If we have like fecal indicator of coliform, that's our goal. Doesn't matter if it's Enterococcus or doesn't matter if it's E. coli. We are concerned in bacterial indicator, in fecal indicator bacteria, I'm sorry. So just to try to put in one screen all the processes. So what we have in the nature, we have like how would say the combination of advection, diffusion, and decay. Okay, so in time 1, if we have like 10 small balls, like for example, trying to explain the mass of some pollutants. So what happens in time 2? We have those balls. We are going to, some of them, they are going to disappear because they will die, for example, in the environment. And besides that, they're going to spread between them, among themselves. So what happens is the concentration tends to increase, not only because of the decay of mass, but also because of the increase of volume. So in time 3, for example, along the position, this concentration is going to increase even more because the mass is going to reduce even more, and the volume is going to increase even more. So the mass reduces with the time, the volume decrease with the increase of the time, and because of that, the concentration reduces substantially with the time. That's the point, okay? So that's what, as I told before, this was for me so far the best model I have researched. This for me is the best, and is the oldest one. So now I can understand the decay of bacteria, E. coli, coliform, as a function of salinity, temperature, and solar radiation. Okay. So, and then we can like do a kind of not function, but a relationship between those decay rates and T90. T90 basically is the time needed to obtain 9% mortality of the initial concentration of bacteria, assuming a first order decay. What it means is, if I had, for example, try to explain this basically, if I have 100 balls and my T90 is 2 hours, it means that after 2 hours, I will have 10 balls. I had 100 balls, and after 2 hours, I will have 10 balls. So it means that I have this kind of the decay rate. So, but what the problem, not the problem, is the solution. I'm saying that the problem in terms of try to quantify that, solar radiation, it's extremely variable. So it depends of a lot of parameters, not only local, but geographical, seasonal, meteorological parameters. If you're talking about geographical seasonal parameters, you have to deal with latitude. What are the latitudes of the studing, of the stud? If you are, I'm concerned in ocean outfalls in Australia or in Norway, in Europe, doesn't matter. But depends, because depending on the latitude, you have a different amounts of solar radiation, also depending on the seasons. So, and besides that, I also have meteorological conditions. We have clear sky, like middle clear sky or total cloud conditions. So it's going to try to mitigate the propagation of solar radiation through the atmosphere. I just have two like comparisons here, like this is Rio de Janeiro and here, right here. And then look at these images from the sun. It's a kind of website, some images available in NASA website. So here you can see Rio de Janeiro from the sun. So this is like the summer solstice. So in this point, the solar the sunlight rays almost hit the Rio de Janeiro surface perpendicular. So here is one of the first place that the solar radiation reaches. So comparing Rio de Janeiro, like this kind of solar radiation graphics from summer to winter, we can understand that our degradation conditions are increased more than 50% during the summer. So our environmental conditions under pollutant conditions will be much worse during the winter compared to the summer. So the sun is everything in this kind of study. So here's just one of the sketches of, I tried to put this in Excel before doing this in Fortran. So, and then I use a model proposed by those authors in 1999. So, and then I try to use this in order to calculate solar radiation without having like data. And then I compare this formulation to measure data. And then I was really glad because they agreed really well. So this, we have this in red dots, it's calculated, and this is blue square is measured. So I have a really good agreement between calculation and measurements. So now I have a tool that doesn't matter. I just can put the latitude, I just can put the dew points and all the stuff, and then I can simulate solar radiation without having equipments to measure solar radiation. Okay, but as I show you before, my plume can be in the free surface, but can be submerged. So what if my plume is submerged? How is going to happen? How is going to be my losses to water column? Because it's going to happen like the extinction, you know, as the sunlight propagates along the water column. So I also have to consider that because I'm talking about ocean outfalls. So I just try to measure this solar radiation, and this I have an average solar radiation along the plume thickness here. So it depends on what the solar radiation that hits. I would say, I don't know if you can say this in English, but a solar radiation that impacts like the free surface attenuated by all the stuff that I showed you before. And also because the solar radiation, there's now a mitigation along the water column. So, and then I'm trying to have an average solar radiation here in order to estimate the degradation of fecal coliform here. So this is like the main goal of the study, okay? So what's the point here? So I'm trying to show a real case here. This is Rio de Janeiro here. This is Barra da Tijuca, Ipanema is around here, Copacabana is around here. So what has happened here? So ocean outfalls is a kind of really controversial solution, okay? Because I understand that in New Zealand, of course you have lots of free space to treat the sewage, but we don't have spaces. So what can we do? What happened is we couldn't have treatment, so we polluted all those lacunar systems here. And then during the ebb tide episodes, we have the pollution of the coastal zone. So I can show you. This is the channel that connects the lacunar system to the ocean. So you can check that. During web episodes, like during low tides, you always have this. So it doesn't matter. Okay, you don't want the ocean outfall working here, five kilometers away from the coast. But okay, but do you want there? Here? Is it better? So, and then we are having those bathing conditions here being, I would say, we cannot have bathing conditions here during those low tides episodes. It's been a problem for a long time. So, and then I tried to model that, to show that, look, the ocean outfalls, they are not the problem of the coastal pollution. I know that there are some impacts in the surroundings of the launching point of those pipelines, but they are not the problems of the pollution. So here, I just want to show the influence of the solar radiation. So I just have here two different conditions. Here we are going to have I think I modeled here 5 or 7 days. 7 days. So I have 3 days the current flowing to that from this side to that side, and more 3 days the currents flowing from this side to that side. So, and then we have here summer sunny conditions, and then we have here summer cloudy conditions. So the decay rates here are much lower, and then we can see here through this simulation how worse can be when we don't have the sun acting in the biodegradation. We can also see the plumes merging, you see. So here it's funny because we have something that it's completely ruled by the tides, and here it's not ruled by the tides. It's ruled by remote forcings like meteorological fronts, all that stuff. But here, look, it's the same time, the same currents, but that's why we like to use modeling. We can do things and compare, considering all the same stuff. The only difference here is the solar radiation that is much lower here than there, than here, I'm sorry. And this is an excellent tool in order to provide solutions. So can you see here any kind of contamination of the coastal zone? Of course not, but we have. So, and many people say that this is the problem, but this is not the problem, this is a solution. And then I'm concerned in the public health. Understand that there is some impact here in biota and other stuff, but I'm still concerned in people, you know. And then here we have like a different approach. Instead of instead of watching a movie, as we saw in the last slide, so here we just consider like, I simulated this for 15 days. And what you are seeing here is the percentage of time that we have unsuitable bathing conditions. So we can see here, we have almost 100% of the time unsuitable bathing conditions. You see, during summer cloud conditions. But here you clearly can see along 20 days, 15 days, the ocean outfalls and all the effluents, they don't reach the coast. So they are safe in the point of view of public health. And then here we can see how sun is important. Look under summer clear sky conditions, how the probabilities reduces. So we have like 25% of the time here, we will have unsuitable bathing conditions. And then here, okay, much worse. But here we can see easily that we have the mixing of those two outfalls, Ipanema and Barra da Tijuca. And then here we can see the Icaraí outfall, that they are in the mouth of Guanabara Bay that influence the water quality here. But many people here could realize that the improvement of water quality here, so it's much safe in terms of public health after the opening of this sewage outfall.
Renato,
I'm sorry.
no, you just finished.